Ever wonder why a superstar like Caitlin Clark is facing backlash in the WNBA? It's not what you think. The league's viewership skyrocketed, benefits improved, and women's basketball hit the spotlight. But then, out of nowhere, wild accusations started flying from WNBA veterans, from the executives to the players to the reporters who, for their sins in a past life, have been cursed with the job of covering a women's basketball league. Everyone should be overjoyed. But there's a big problem. All of this success, every bit of it, is due to the presence of one player in a league, and that is a generational talent named Caitlin Clark, who of course you've heard of, and still probably the only WNBA player whose name you know. Matt Walsh isn't buying it. He's calling out the hypocrisy, and boy, does he have receipts. He's got the facts, the figures, and he's not afraid to name names. Stick around as we expose the shocking truth behind the WNBA's biggest controversy yet. You won't believe what some players are saying behind the scenes. Are you ready? Let's go. Picture this. Caitlin Clark steps onto the court, and the WNBA transforms overnight. She's not just making waves, she's causing a tsunami in women's basketball. The WNBA is experiencing a surge like never before. Viewership has skyrocketed, with record-breaking numbers that have executives pinching themselves. Arenas are packed to the brim, creating an electric atmosphere once unheard of in the WNBA. It's like someone flipped a switch and suddenly, women's basketball is the hottest ticket in town. There are a lot of stories out there about lottery winners who go on to destroy their lives. Something like 70% of them supposedly go bankrupt within a few years. It's not hard to see how that would happen. When you give a lot of money and attention to a person who didn't earn any of it, that person doesn't suddenly change overnight. Instead, more often than not, all of their worst character traits are amplified 10 times over, and in many cases that leads to a very public and humiliating collapse. There's a principle that doesn't just apply to individuals, it turns out it applies to organizations too. This popularity is attracting big money. Sponsorships and massive deals are rolling in like never before. It's as if the floodgates have opened, and everyone wants a piece of the WNBA pie. Players are seeing better benefits, and the league's getting attention from unexpected places with a fave of new fans. But here's the twist. Not everyone's cheering. Some players are grumbling. Can you believe it? In the midst of all this success, there's discontent brewing. There's been a lot of resentment in this league lately, in particular since the season began. And the thing about resentment, as we all know, is that it tends to fester over time. It gets worse and worse. That's exactly what we're seeing now. It's a head-scratcher for sure. On one hand, you've got a league finally getting the recognition it's been craving for. On the other, you've got players seemingly unhappy with the very thing they've been fighting for all along. Why? That's the million-dollar question. Are they jealous of Clark's sudden stardom? Scared of what this means for their own careers? Or is there something else going on beneath the surface? Picture this. The WNBA is riding high on a wave of popularity, and suddenly, a bombshell drops that shakes the league to its core. We're talking about explosive accusations of racism that are threatening to tear apart women's basketball. It's like someone lit a match in a room full of gasoline. Brittany Griner, one of the biggest stars in the game, comes out swinging with a shocking claim. She says new fans are shouting slurs at games. Can you believe it? The question that Brittany Griner was asked was about the massive growth of this league, which was dead in the water just a year ago and had been dead for its entire existence. And the reporter asked, what do you think of all the new fans? And like in any other context, when someone says, what do you think of all the new fans that are coming in? Usually it's, oh, it's great, we love how everybody is supporting the league and we're so grateful. None of that. Instead of some gratitude, some appreciation for the people who have saved the WNBA, who will pay to come out to see bad players like Brittany Griner, instead of that we get resentment. But Griner's not alone. Alyssa Thomas, another superstar player, backs her up with some intense words of her own. Thomas, an 11-year veteran who's seen it all, didn't hold back. That's a serious accusation from a player of her caliber. But hold on a second. Something's not quite adding up here. Matt Walsh, never one to shy away from controversy, starts poking holes in these accusations. And you know what? He's not the only one raising eyebrows. In other words, they're now accusing the people who have started showing up to WNBA games for the first time in more than 2 decades of being horrible racists. Here's the thing that's got people scratching their heads. Where's the proof? We're living in an age where everyone's got a camera in their pocket. Arenas are packed with fans holding up their phones, ready to catch every moment. So why hasn't a single incident been caught on tape? Walsh doesn't pull any punches. He's calling it like he sees it, saying these accusations are totally made up. It's a bold statement, but it's got people thinking. But let's pump the brakes for a second. Why would players lie about something so serious? That's the million-dollar question that's got fans and critics alike in a heated debate. Are they trying to stir up drama? Is there something else going on behind the scenes? Then the videos would be all over the internet. But those videos are not all over the internet. They're not anywhere on the internet. So instead we have to take the players' word for it. The whole situation is tearing the league apart. On one side, you've got players feeling victimized and demanding action. On the other, you've got skeptics like Walsh calling for hard evidence before jumping to conclusions. And caught in the middle, the fans, the sponsors, and the future of the WNBA itself. Nothing about the answer makes sense even in that context. Why would that be the first thing the grinder mentions when the reporter asks about the fans? Why not say, well, the overwhelming majority of the fans are great people. I'm so happy that they're paying money, and I'm so grateful to have them. Like, why wouldn't you, even if this was happening, why wouldn't you start with that? Picture this, a packed arena, the crowd on the edge of their seats, and Caitlin Clark dominating the court. Suddenly, everything changes. Clark's on the ground, clutching her face. What just happened? Rewind to that fateful game. Dejanay Carrington goes for the ball, and boom, Clark's down. The crowd erupts and gasps and boos. No foul called. The refs let it slide. Social media explodes. Was it intentional? An accident? Everyone's dissecting the replay. Seems straightforward, but the backlash was intense. The WNBA Players Association didn't just disagree with Brennan's question. They went nuclear. It's not offensive. It's the bare minimum you'd expect under the circumstances. It's the kind of questions that reporters ask male athletes all the time. When there's a foul, when there's a scuffle, it's the same kind of questions. But Carrington immediately gets snippy and obnoxious in response, and then just for asking these questions, Brennan, who incidentally is one of the biggest champions of women's sports in the industry, is now getting dogpiled. In particular, the WNBA Players Association just put out one of the most demented statements imaginable. They accused Brennan of being unprofessional and trying to bait Carrington into a false narrative. We call BS. Unprofessional members of the media like Christine Brennan, you are not fooling anyone. That so-called interview in the name of journalism was a blatant attempt to bait a professional athlete into participating in a narrative that is false and designed to fuel racist, homophobic, and misogynistic vitriol on social media. You cannot hide behind your tenure. Whoa, all this for asking about a play. The Players Association even attacked Brennan's journalistic integrity, urging USA Today to review its ethical conduct principles. But asking about controversial plays is part of sports journalism. It happens in other leagues all the time. So why is it different in the WNBA? In other leagues, when stars get fouled, reporters ask about it. But in the WNBA, it's apparently off limits. What does this mean for sports journalism and women's basketball? Are we entering an era where tough questions are taboo, where every inquiry is scrutinized for hidden agendas? This isn't just about one play or question anymore. It's about the relationship between players, media, and fans. It's about transparency, accountability, and the nature of sports reporting. As the dust settles, one thing's clear. Women's basketball is at a crossroads. How it navigates this challenge could shape the future of the sport and its coverage for years to come. You're not going to see any of that on video or hear any of it, but just take their word for it. Take the WNBA's word for it. Take the media's word for it. Yet some WNBA players are still upset that the media isn't making an even bigger deal out of the fake racism scandal. Just when you thought the drama couldn't get any more intense, enter Angel Reese and Asia Wilson. These WNBA stars are about to throw gasoline on an already blazing fire, and here's the real kicker. The media is not just reporting the story anymore. They're becoming part of it. The media is running with this narrative like there's no tomorrow. No questions asked, no fact-checking. And that's where Matt Walsh comes in. He's pointing fingers at the media, accusing them of being complicit in what he calls a contrived scandal. Walsh is saying they're reporting on a phantom crisis without even bothering to verify the claims. He's comparing it to other sports controversies that turned out to be nothing burgers. Reese, however, said her pleas for accountability and action have been repeatedly ignored. Quote, "The media has benefited from my pain and me being villainized to create a narrative," she wrote on X. They allowed this. This was beneficial to them. Y'all a little late to the party and could have tried to put out this fire way before it started. And what did MVP Asia Wilson have to say about all this when interviewed? Asia Wilson is her name. It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is. Now, the WNBA is trying to put out fires left and right. They've issued a statement condemning these comments and promising to take action. Sounds good, right? But Walsh isn't buying it. He's questioning how effective these measures can be when there's no solid evidence to back up the claims. Here's where it gets really interesting. While all this drama is unfolding, the WNBA is actually experiencing some serious growth. We're talking highest average game viewership in 24 years. But instead of celebrating this massive win, everyone's focused on the controversy. It's like the league can't catch a break, and the fans, they're starting to ask questions too. Some are rallying behind the players speaking out, while others are skeptical of the claims. It's like everyone's caught in this whirlwind of accusations and counter-accusations, and nobody knows where it's going to land. Are we witnessing a pivotal moment in sports history? Or is this all just a storm in a teacup? Only time will tell. Just when you thought the WNBA drama couldn't get any more intense, Caitlin Clark steps into the spotlight. Let's talk about Clark's response. The anticipation was building. Everyone wondered, would she follow the playbook of rookies past, who often stayed silent during controversies? Or would she blaze her own trail? Here's where it gets interesting. Clark finally breaks her silence, and her words send shockwaves through the entire league. She doesn't mince words when she says, in the middle of all this controversy, she's actually thanking the fans. It's like she's walking a tightrope, balancing between supporting her fellow players and defending the fans who've rallied behind her. Now, here's where things get really juicy. The reaction to Clark's statements, it's a mixed bag. Some fans are praising her maturity, impressed that she's not playing the victim card. But others, they're not buying it. They're saying Clark's out of touch, that she doesn't understand what her fellow players are going through. Matt Walsh is loving this. He's all over Clark's response, saying it proves his point about the whole controversy being overblown. Walsh is practically shouting from the rooftops, see, even Caitlin Clark doesn't think there's widespread racism in the league. So what's really going on here? If Clark's not seeing it, what are the other players seeing? Is this all just a big misunderstanding, or is there something deeper at play? This is just too manufactured and overblown to take seriously. They're reaching to a degree that's comical and delusional at the same time. The scandal has been invented out of whole cloth by WNBA players for one reason and one reason only. They are racked with envy and resentment that the most popular player in a league is white. Alright, let's talk about the bombshell Matt Walsh just dropped. Are you ready for this? He's saying the whole WNBA controversy isn't about racism at all. It's about something way more personal. Envy. Caitlin Clark steps onto the court, and suddenly the WNBA is buzzing like never before. Ticket sales are soaring, sponsors are lining up, and the league is getting unprecedented attention. Clark isn't just any player. She's a generational talent, who's white in a league where about 80% of the players are black. That's stirring up some feelings. Walsh argues that some players are jealous of Clark's success. Why? Well, Clark's becoming the face of the league. Her endorsement deals are making other players' contracts look like pocket change. We're talking about a rookie potentially earning more off the court than veterans do on it. This isn't just about Caitlin Clark. It's about a league going through major growing pains. The WNBA is changing, and not everyone's on board with how it's happening. You've got established players who've been grinding for years, and suddenly this rookie comes in and changes everything. Before long, people start to push back. No normal person wants to pay money to support a team only to be told that they're racist and horrible for doing it. It's a big part of why the DEI grift has begun to collapse. This isn't unique to the WNBA. Other sports leagues have gone through similar growing pains. When things start changing, when new stars rise, there's often controversy. Representation, star treatment. These issues pop up again and again in professional sports. So what does all this mean for the WNBA? They're at a crossroads. They're trying to keep their longtime fans happy while also welcoming this new wave of attention and popularity. It's a balancing act, and right now, it looks like they're wobbling a bit. How they handle this could define the league for years to come. Caitlin Clark's bringing in fans like never before, but it's stirring up some tough conversations about sports, race, and human nature. Experts say the league's got a golden opportunity for growth, but there's a catch. The drama could backfire if not handled carefully. We've seen similar situations in other sports. Sometimes these controversies launch a league into the stratosphere. Other times, they crash and burn. The WNBA is dealing with the same kind of issues that have rocked other sports. Keep your eyes on this one. Will the WNBA emerge stronger, or will the challenges prove too much?